Alex Rowley, followed by Bob Doris.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This has been an interesting debate today, and one which I believe demonstrates that the Scottish Conservatives are in complete denial about the situation that we find ourselves in and the threat to the Scottish economy and to people's livelihoods. The situation that, as James Kelly said, was created by the Conservatives in their first instance in an attempt to address their long-standing internal divisions over Europe, and now by their complete failure to put country before party. It is also worth making the point that even if an agreement was to be reached in the coming weeks, it would be very difficult to put in place the required 6 Acts of Parliament and 600 statutory instruments and get them agreed before the 29th of March. That is why I do hope and I do believe that our European neighbours and partners will recognise the need for an extension of Article 50 and agree to this if voted through Westminster. I would also suggest that whilst there are difficulties in agreeing an extension past the European elections at the end of May, where there is a will, there is a way, and I do think it would be possible to negotiate an extension that takes us beyond the European elections if this time is needed to find the best way forward. All of this means we must and should take a no-deal Brexit off the table. I know that many people that I've spoken to in recent weeks say they are just fed up with it all and just want it to be over. But a no-deal Brexit would not be the end. It would be the start of a further period of much more complex negotiations and a period of instability that would cost jobs, increase uncertainty and indeed hardship for communities up and down Scotland. As Professor Jim Gallagher notes in today's Times, he states that government officials here in one of the world's richest countries have been considering whether there would be enough food in the shops or medicines in the hospitals if we leave with no relationship and no deal. The Conservative government is content to spend £171,000 an hour preparing for a dangerous and unnecessary no deal. A no deal that many economists say would be catastrophic, and a no deal that for Scotland has the potential to push our economy into recession. Imagine that £171,000 an hour being spent instead on education, on health, on housing, on building our economy. The Tories in here today should be apologising to the people of Scotland, not proposing or opposition to taking a no deal off the table. Professor Gallagher is amongst many who would like to see an extension of Article 50 used to engage more widely. He argues for citizens' assemblies, a measured, deliberative process in which ordinary citizens hear the evidence, consider the options and come to a view. He acknowledges this could result in a second vote in the country, but makes a valid point that campaigning now in a second referendum would be bitter and divisive. Whether or not there is time to take on board these ideas now remains to be seen. But the point that referendums do not lend themselves to informed debate and tend to create division and bitterness must surely be taken on board for the future. The key point of today's debate is to make a clear statement that no deal must be removed from the table. May's no deal threat is empty and hugely expensive, wasting billions of pounds we should be spending on vital public services. It is a damaging attempt to appease the faction in her own party when she needs to reach out to overcome this crisis. Labour are ready to talk to the government and others in Parliament about a sensible alternative plan, but not while Theresa May is wasting £171,000 an hour of taxpayers' money on dangerous and unnecessary no-deal brinkmanship. If the Prime Minister is serious about finding a solution that can command support in Parliament and bring our country together, she must listen not only to the majority of MPs and members of her own cabinet, but also to the devolved administrations here in Scotland and in Wales, who are overwhelmingly against a no-deal Brexit. Labour will put forward our support and support an amendment in favour of a public vote to prevent a damaging Tory Brexit or a no-deal outcome, both of which would be so damaging for our country. This is in line with our policy that was unanimously agreed at conference last year and a policy that we have stuck to. We believe we will consider any backbench amendments that is consistent with this approach. Any such amendment to support a public vote could be attached to the Prime Minister's deal or a version of it, should it win a majority in the House of Commons. We will also continue to push for the other available options to prevent a damaging Tory Brexit or no deal, including a close economic relationship based on our credible alternative plan or, as Richard Leonard said, a general election. No deal would be deeply damaging for Scotland's economy. It would be damaging to people. It would be damaging to access to healthcare and to people's quality of life. That's why this Parliament should unite and agree that we demand a no deal be taken off the table.